Have you ever touched something that seemed to be staring back at you? The old jewelry box seemed like a simple find, but what awaited inside brought not treasures, but nightmares and death. After everything that happened, I still can't explain what exactly drew my attention to that small wooden jewelry box. It was simple, without any frills. When I asked what was inside, Meg, the owner of Antique Alley, hesitated for a moment before answering. "A collection of antique silver, mostly jewelry and coins," she said. I nodded, mentally valuing it at a few $1,000s, and was about to put the box back. "Actually, no. Today, it's on sale. You can have it for about $700. It's been here for a very long time, and I'm trying to get rid of it." That made me think. This story is hard to tell. My memories are somewhat fragmented, and what follows will not be the most consistent account of events, but it reflects what I experienced. It all started that day at Antique Alley. I had known Meg for a while. I started visiting her shop a few years ago, and in that time bought everything from a 1960s toy piano to original 1980s computer parts. Sometimes she would give me discounts on various items, supposedly because I was a regular customer. "Why so cheap?" I asked. Meg smiled. "You've been coming here for many years. I guess I can make this small gesture in return for your loyalty." Some might have been immediately suspicious, but in truth, it was hard for me to suspect this woman. She was very particular about the items she took for sale. I knew this because I had sold her some things myself once, and it never occurred to me that the jewelry could be fake. You might have guessed it, but I'm one of those people who buys things and then resells them for more. Usually I look for something that needs a little restoration. I can raise the price quite significantly and still have a clear conscience because the buyer will still get a valuable item. But there were exceptions, like today. A few antique silver items for just $700. It looked like the best opportunity to make money in a long time. I opened the box to examine the contents. A few rings, 2 necklaces, a goblet, and several uneven pieces of metal spilled onto the counter. It looked like silver. It was probably real. I picked up one of the larger pieces. It tried to be a circle, but it didn't quite make it. On its uneven surface, one could discern some kind of pattern, a castle, and next to it, a lion. All around it was surrounded by a shield that divided the symbols into 4 parts. To the left of the shield was the letter P, to the right, D. At the bottom were some more symbols. Meg came closer. "These are old Spanish coins. This one is their highest denomination, 8 reales. They were hammered, so they are all a bit uneven, some even cracked. It's quite rare to see such old silver that looks like it was just minted." She laughed and tossed the coin back into the box. Later, I tried on both necklaces and 2 rings. Most of the rings were unadorned. One had a pattern similar to those Spanish coins. The other was decorated with strange symbols. The necklaces were even stranger. They were simple, thin silver chains, but the links themselves were hollow metal pieces through which a cord passed. One had a cross hanging from it, the other a tiny pendant depicting a man holding some tools. It occurred to me that it would be best to list each item for sale separately. I had recently been in a car accident and was now slowly paying for car repairs and medical treatment. But I could at least afford to wear these pieces of jewelry for a few days, especially if they were over 300 years old. At work, people started complimenting me. For the first time, people wanted to talk to me themselves. One guy, a silver collector, who never missed an opportunity to tell everyone about it, pulled me aside and said that if I wanted to know the origin of the coins, I could show him one of them. In the same sentence, he invited me to dinner at a nearby Italian restaurant. His offer didn't interest me, so I replied that maybe I'd take him up on it someday. A few days after I started wearing the jewelry, the dreams began.
Now, I only remember fragments and impressions. Some underground tunnels, dark spaces lit by lamps and candles. Hammers, chisels, pickaxes. Coughing, workers' screams, distant sounds of landslides. We were breaking away the stone that held us captive, hoping for something better. And again, these dreams repeated, and I began to be afraid to fall asleep. I found the silver goblet on the kitchen table next to the coffee maker in the morning, the second day after those dreams. I must have left it there myself, although I had no memory of doing so, and I didn't remember it being there before at all. But oh well, you only live once. If I had the opportunity to drink my morning coffee from a silver goblet, why not? I didn't pay much attention to this object, running my fingers over the floral ornament on its rounded surface. It felt cold to the touch, but quickly warmed in my hand. The goblet resembled a chalice in shape, though it wasn't very tall. It was wide at the top and narrowed towards the stem. The bottom part widened slightly to add stability. Something was engraved on the bottom. On closer inspection, it turned out to be initials. In the polished inner surface, I could see my reflection, although it was distorted at the edges. In a minute, I already had hot coffee. I added a little milk and sweetener. As I brought the goblet to my lips, I suddenly remembered that eerie scene from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where some man, what was his name? Walter Donovan, drinks from a cup thinking it's the Holy Grail, and then turns into a pile of bone dust because he chose the wrong cup. The warm, sweet liquid touched my lips. There are people who slurp coffee. Psychopaths, honestly. I'm not one of them. I took another sip. This time I felt a little sand on my tongue. Strange. I took another sip. It was too late when I realized that this sand couldn't have come from the coffee. It tasted both earthy and metallic. I spat out the rest and started gagging over the trash can, but it was useless. Tiny particles clung to my throat. I grabbed the goblet. Inside, the coffee was already cloudy. Gray dust particles floated in it. I was breathing heavily and felt the smallest of them entering my lungs. It turned out I had made the wrong choice. That night, I did agree to dinner with that silver guy. He took the coins I brought and whistled. "This is Spanish silver. So is it real?" I asked again. I completely trusted Meg, but it was nice to hear confirmation from another person. "Oh, I'm almost certain it's real." He began to explain in detail why, but I stopped listening after 5 minutes. Usually I liked learning about the things I resold, but with this silver, I couldn't bring myself to be interested in its history. He repeatedly offered to exchange some of his items for one of my rings, or at least a small coin. Of course I refused. His offers somehow annoyed me. I didn't even understand why. Then he showed me his own coins. But unlike mine, they were almost black with corrosion. He noticed it himself and said it was strange, as if my silver hadn't succumbed to time at all. "I guess I just got lucky," I replied. But I wasn't lucky with him. The guy knew a lot about silver, but overall, he wasn't very interesting, so there was no second date. When I got home, I saw 2 missed calls from Meg. She left a voicemail. Here's the text. "Olivia, it's Meg. That silver I sold you. I'd like to have it back. I'll pay 10 times what you gave me. I had no right to sell it. It's real, but it's not mine. Please call me back or come over tomorrow. We can definitely work something out. I'm so sorry. This is really important." "No, absolutely not. Now it's my silver. I bought it at the price she herself set. It belonged to me, not her. Did Meg only now see its true value? And I trusted her. And now she's trying to take my luck away. Betrayal." The next day she called again. And then again. I blocked her number.
That night I had a new dream. I was flying high above snow-covered mountains. The air was clear and I could breathe deeply. Below lay my entire world. Everyone I knew and everyone I was yet to know. This is what the silver could give me. I could have everything I ever wanted. All I had to do was let go of a small part of it. But was it worth it? This treasure was too perfect to give up. Maybe I'll sell one item and keep the rest. After all, I don't get such luxurious things a second time in my life. The next day was Saturday. I planned to do nothing but snack and binge-watch Charmed. That's what I was doing for about 3 hours, until I was interrupted by a knock at the door. "I don't need anything!" I yelled. The knocking repeated. "There's no Jesus Christ in this house. I'm with Satan." That was supposed to scare them away, but no. The door was knocked on a third time. And then I heard a familiar voice calling my name. What the? It was Meg. I paused the show, got up from the chair, and went to open the door. "Do you know what the word no means?" I asked sharply, yanking the door open. "Olivia," Meg began, "I just want to talk." She looked tired and exhausted. Her hair seemed grayer than a few days ago. "I need to warn you, the silver is dangerous. You have to get rid of it as soon as possible." "Dangerous?" I snorted incredulously. "It's just antique silver. It won't bite." She was still trying to get it back. Meg frowned. "You have to understand, the person who sold me the silver, I learned his story, and something happened to him. And he wasn't the only one." I barely suppressed a laugh. "So what? He needed money. That happens. You gave him money. What's the problem?" Meg flinched. "Can I see it?" she asked timidly. "Of course," I replied after a pause. I turned around and went inside. The thought of bringing her the box didn't even cross my mind. My silver necklaces jingled as I entered the kitchen. I opened the cutlery drawer, but the silver wasn't there. Of course. Then I opened another drawer with large knives. "Here it is." I grabbed it and turned back. Without hesitation, I flung open the door and held the knife out in front of Meg. "Go," I just said. "Olivia!" Now she was speaking in a whisper. "The silver is driving you mad." Desperation was in her voice. "Yes, I'm evil. Can't a girl watch a show in peace?" Meg's shoulders slumped. "Death follows the silver wherever it goes. For your own life, Olivia, destroy it." With those words, Meg turned and left. But I remained standing on the porch with the knife in my hand. She could have stayed. Maybe then I would have understood the truth sooner. Or maybe not. She also had to protect herself. And now, looking back, I'm glad she left. Over the next few days, the dreams changed. In them, I saw and felt two different worlds, two different possibilities. The sky awaited me, flight, and other people? Well, it's not my problem what awaits them. The night stopped being so terrible. However, I still woke up very early. The days began to merge into one another. Work, home, home, work, and again. And between this, long hours when I sat and looked at the silver at the bottom of that small box, hundreds of distorted reflections of my face looked at me. And suddenly, they merged into one. Those uneven coins formed a mosaic that reflected a strange, terrifying image back at me. Although the coins remained crooked and the reflection was distorted, I saw my exhausted face. Dark circles lay under my eyes. Those were the dreams. All those things I didn't want to think about and understand. They made me unrestless. I had to find a way to suppress them. Well, it's fine. I can pay for any help I'll need. This realization calmed me. I looked at my reflection again and saw not only myself. A man stood behind me. I jumped up. The chair overturned. I turned sharply. But there was only the wall of my room and the bed. My gaze stopped at the clock. It was already deep night, but my memories after dinner were blurry. I planned to list a few items on eBay, but the computer wasn't even turned on. Obviously, I needed rest. He must have realized that little time was left.
because that night he spoke to me. He told me about a mountain that devoured people, a place whose true name had long been forgotten. Once it was a place of worship, and then the hungry came. Juan Dieguelpa, who served them, discovered silver. The lords, in their greed and morbid hunger, decided to take the mountain's treasures for themselves. Now it was called Cerro Rico, Rich Mountain. For centuries, men worked in its depths. They tried to eat the mountain, to carve out a piece for themselves or for the lords, but the mountain devoured them instead. Countless boys and men died there, while the fruits of their labor were shipped to distant lands. And the mountain itself, once tall and proud, gradually bent under the blows of thousands of hammers and chisels. But the silver was cursed. Everywhere it went, misfortune followed. The hungry, who condemned their slaves and subjects to death in the mines, accumulated so much silver that it lost its value, and the world plunged into chaos. Their empire crumbled to dust, but this did not make it easier for ordinary people, and men returned to the mines again. The silver was almost gone, so they mined tin. Every miner signed an agreement with the first blow of his hammer. The earth allowed them to take some of its gifts, but demanded a sacrifice. The small fortune a man could achieve was always paid for by premature death. The only question was whether he would die immediately in the dark depths, or later, when his lungs would be destroyed by the same gray dust, and he simply wouldn't be able to breathe anymore. Now the mountain belonged to a country of 12 million, named after a great liberator. On paper, it was owned by the people, but neither corporations, nor the crown, nor the state dictated terms anymore. But in the tunnels, it changed little. Wealth only grows when you are lucky enough to have it. It was taken from those people. The mountain was still eating, even in its agony. Now foreigners from all over the world came to play at understanding the lives of people born in completely different circumstances. But through all this, the silver did not disappear. It was scattered throughout the world, along with the greed and deaths that accompanied it.
Images flashed through my mind. Different people looked into the same box, and the same spark shone in all their eyes. Then one by one, they died, and the silver passed into new hands. The circumstances of the murders always differed slightly. Someone held the treasure, and someone else envied and shed blood. The silver passed from hand to hand in an endless cycle of violence. The last vision was the most terrifying. I saw a frightened Meg standing a step away from the butcher's knife I was wielding so carelessly. I was ready to kill to protect what was never mine. And what could I say about myself? Nothing. Like all the other victims of silver, killers and killed. We were all just its toys. Silver only awakened what already lived deep within us. I became aware of myself, felt a burning pain on my neck and fingers. The box lay open on the table. The silver in it glowed red hot. I grabbed it and rushed into the living room. I lit the fireplace. First, the box itself flew inside and instantly caught fire. And then I tore the necklace from my neck so sharply that the cords cut into my skin and blood ran down my back. The rings came off easier. I threw all of it into the fire. The wooden box turned to ashes, but its contents remained. Each object slowly melted into lumps of molten metal. They merged and took shape. From the formless mass emerged a human silhouette. I saw the image of a man with a hammer and chisel carved onto its surface, the same one who came into my dreams and whose small likeness I had worn around my neck for several days. The metal cooled. The fireplace extinguished itself as if it knew its work was done. From the flames emerged a miner
covered from head to toe in a thin layer of gray dust. The silver no longer glowed. It had blackened, dulled. He raised his eyes and looked at me, said nothing, and there was no need to. The silver remained pure only thanks to the suffering of those who extracted it. But the spirit was finally freed, and the silver crumbled into dust before my eyes. For the first time in a long time, I could think clearly. The curse was lifted. I was no longer under the spell of the bloody silver, but the mountain was becoming emptier and emptier. People continued to work and die in it for pennies. And even a century later, the hungry remained hungry. And all the riches of the world could not satisfy them.